I'm curious.
I signed us up. They're like a
Ah,
small
okay.
PR company, so I figured why not?
Okay. Because I haven't seen anything that's like, oh yeah, that one yet. So
Yeah. Okay, we're now live or should be live. Go. Whoop.
I got the Wolf. If we're up against it, I've got an opener that I can do to cover for you.
I was literally just gonna do the lost thing.
Oh.
One sec here. Okay, we're on Twitch. I see us on Yield YouTube. I think Blue Sky I can do links. They don't care like Twitter does. Wow, you can do links. Fantastic. I like Blue Sky already.
I didn't know Twitter cared about links.
Yeah, they
They
hide your
didn't used
posts if you
to.
try and post links.
What?
Oh, do they?
Yep. And if you post regular links, they try and take the link out of it now, and they don't like putting it on the card. Twitter's something else, man.
How useless.
Yep.
Twitter is nothing else.
I am so done. I downloaded for my personal Twitter, like Pressby Twitter obviously still stays up, but for my personal Twitter, I requested all my tweets. It's one giant file. I'm going to upload it to a tweet deleter thing and just have it all wiped. And I'll leave up a landing page of go find me here because I'm done with Twitter. I don't want to go to it anymore.
Go follow
I
Jake and
am
I
too.
over at Blue Sky Note, which is a Circus Survive album.
Yeah. bsky.app is how you can go to it.
Or yes, and then just find
Yeah,
Jake and I out there.
Yeah, I'm done. Like there's already an opt out for AI there to use your tweets for training their AI thing called Grok a couple months back. So I opted out of that, and then now it's like they're trying to slip into the terms and conditions other AI training as like a
That's it.
monetization
I'm making
thing.
an
And I'm like,
AI
I'm
called
done.
Kronk.
Like, I'm just Kronk. Yeah, that's the real
Kronk.
AI. Yeah, so I'm done with Twitter. I don't want to go there anymore. Okay, we're live, Wolf. Whenever you want to go. Oh, hold on. Let me change it to your video. Hold on. Let's pretend to be professional. Give me a sec.
Wow.
Professional.
Professional.
All right. whenever you're ready.
All right. Lost today on.
Professional. We were professional. We were almost there. We almost got to the end of the intro. Go ahead.
So close.
We're so close. So close.
You know I
who
can't
need-
have that. No, we can't have that. Sinistar's not here, so I gotta pick it up.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it. Chard, do the assignment.
How to derail the professionalism. At least you didn't drop
Yes,
an MF
yes.
in the first 7 seconds. That's pretty good.
No, that's a first. That's a first. That's a first. All right.
All right. So today, not to keep people in suspense anymore, if you didn't look at the thumbnail, we're talking about Silent Hill 2. Somewhat specifically the remaster, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about both of them. So I don't think the distinguishing qualifier there is too important. I am joined.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I am joined by these two wonderful fellows, Jake and Chard. How you guys doing tonight?
Apparently super interrupty tonight, so that's cool.
That's
my job.
That's how. Yeah, we all usually do that. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's how
It's
you
all
know we're
right.
AI. I mean, not AI.
I told you guys, right? That asshole on Reddit who put a post, wants to pay podcasters for raw audio from their podcasts, and their criteria is an hour long and must have interrupting co-hosts. Like, I feel attacked. Are you going to generate AI podcasts that interrupt? That's our thing. Screw you.
Didn't this is completely off topic, but didn't like somebody show that they had a podcast AI talking to one another and they interrupted one another?
Yeah,
And they
there's
were
definitely
just
a
like,
thing.
you wouldn't know that this is an AI podcast to be like, sons of bitches, I know everything's AI because I trust no one.
But
As
you
I
know
said,
what?
motherfucker.
Here's how you know that AI will not be replacing podcasts anytime soon. without realizing it's AI because they don't go on tangents like this. They stay on topic.
Press
Well,
I to A.
they gotta pay
Yes.
us to train them on tangents. That's what they gotta do.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's not the
Jake, you're
talking
looking
over
pretty
each other thing. It's the
you're looking
tangents.
pretty AI-ish today, Jake. Are you okay? You feeling all right?
Oh, am I
Yeah.
like
No,
choppy?
you just know. You look clean as hell. That's the problem. Everything looks too
Oh,
clean.
okay.
We're talking about
All
a
right.
game. Wolf, I'm
Yeah, we're
stealing the
gonna.
show. Go for it.
That's fine. We're gonna talk about Silent Hill 2. So this is how many years did it take? Like 3 years to get the sequel to the first one, I think.
A generation jump, right? PS1 was the first
Yeah,
game, and PS2,
it
Yes,
right?
was.
yeah,
So
I think the
it took a
first
chunk
one
of
was
change, yeah.
late. I think the first one was pretty late PS1, but yeah, it was a generational jump. We went from PS1 to PS2, so it was a pretty big graphical difference. And
It looks
then
like Silent Hill is a 1999 survivor horror, and we know that Silent Hill 2 was released in 2001,
okay.
2002.
oh,
So
okay,
yeah, so they were pretty close to one another, but I like you said, I believe there was they were at the it was at the end of the life of the original PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 going into this one. So
that actually might explain one of the issues I have with the original, which I don't know if I've ever actually mentioned on the podcast, but the white noise in the original made it to where I just couldn't play it. For those of you who don't know, I have a condition called nystagmus, where my eyes just jitter back and forth, right and left. 'Cause they never figured out how to completely align with one another. So that's what they're trying to do. My brain just forgot that one, I guess. Um,
When you
so
mean white
all that
noise, you mean like TV
the
static
visual
white noise?
distortion white noise, yeah.
Okay.
mhm.
So
Okay.
the way they incorporated it in that, had that been an option I could have turned off to begin with, I would have been able to play the game. I would have played the game. But I later found out after my friends beat it and I gave it back to them, like, I can't play this. They went and found out, oh, it's an option after you beat the game. I'm like, well, that does me no good.
After you
Here's
beat the game, that's a
yeah.
feature. You
Yes.
can disable the white static.
Yeah.
Well,
So
here's
clearly,
a
like,
thing. There's this really cool concept that I learned while doing my research for this game because as you can tell, I'm very much into this and I will be very much into this when we get into discussion. During the era of the PS1, since the PS1, though more powerful than our, Super Nintendos and our Sega Genesis, there was still limited on graphical viewpoint, so you couldn't see very far. So they actually used the fog in Silent Hill 1 to help get more power to more direct things in front of you as opposed to
Okay.
giving you an entire view of the city. And because they did that, it became a staple for Silent Hill, which then translated into the rest of the games as the fog. So technically, they were using the Turok fog, field of view fog, to
Okay.
give you more power to run on the original Silent Hill. Fun fact.
So why is it when you say fog on PS1, it's this cool freaking feature that's atmospheric and awesome, but when I bring up Turok on the N64, you guys give me all this shit about the fog being a problem.
well, because
Because,
Silent Hill doesn't give me a headache.
well,
Well,
Silent Hill 2 kind of does.
Silent Hill 2 did for a different reason.
because like when I
Mm.
But
played, my only memory of Silent Hill 1, because that's the one I played the most of, is the fog and not being able to see a damn thing like 10 feet right away from my face. At least Turok, I could see a little bit of a distance to shoot things. Silent Hill 1 was just too much fog.
And I will
I don't know.
argue that because when you're Turok and you have first person view of Turok, you should be able to see what's in front of you because you were using tank overhead or third person view of Silent Hill. You can do whatever the hell you want. Also, when you make a game as good as Silent Hill, you can do whatever the hell you want. So you could do no wrong. Well, until after 4, then you could do a lot wrong, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
well, I
So
from
yeah,
what
fun
I
fact.
understand, like Silent Hill 2 is one of the most beloved entries in the franchise, and I never got to enjoy it
Yeah.
because of that issue. I loved the
Right.
original. I liked what I played of 3, because 3 didn't have that visual white noise. And if it bothers anybody that I keep saying white noise, that's actually what the option was called in Silent
Yeah,
Hill 2 was white
that's what it
noise.
is.
So,
It's kind of
um,
funny because I'll relate my love for Soulsborne because I got to get a Dark Souls reference in every episode, just like drinking every Dr Pepper in every episode. The
Mark it on your
way
bingo
that
cards.
the way that Silent Hill, yeah, I'm not pointing at my wall, but you know we're gonna talk about Dark Souls. So the way that Silent Hill is set up, ironically, is very similar to the way Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 are set up. 1 and 3 are correlated with one another, just like Silent Hill. So Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 3 are connected. Silent Hill 2, though in the city and has its own thing, it's its own thing. It doesn't have a lot of any information pertaining to 1 or 2. It's actually got a whole nother story and a whole nother bilinear thing that it does. So it's
Okay.
almost like when they play Silent Hill 1 and then you go into 2, you kind of expect it to be a merging of the 2. It's not. It's like an offshoot of its own thing, where to the point where Silent Hill 2 could almost have its own sequel to make sense. And then you go into 3, and 3 kind of brings back old stuff from 1. Um, I won't give any spoilers because there's a lot of spoilers that connect 1 to 3, and I won't do
Okay.
that. But
So Silent
but
Hill 1 didn't get a remake, right? It was just 2?
yeah,
So
2
then I
2
guess
came
that
out
makes
because 2 was
sense.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it's almost its own game. Like, you could
Right.
have just called it Silent Hill James Adventure or Silent Hill Maria or something, and it
I'm
would
glad
be
you're
its
not in
own
charge of marketing
offshoot.
of this game, Char.
Yeah, you like that?
Silent Hills, James.
James. The
Silent
James
Hill,
cut.
Jimbo Japes.
Jimbo James. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's its own thing. So when people who haven't played Silent Hill or understand like Silent Hill, why did 2 get the release first? What's going on with 2 getting the release first? It's because it's its own thing. It has no connection really outside of 1 and 3. It's got its own deal. I'm
Okay.
hoping that with the success of 2, which has been very successful, that it then triggers maybe Blooper to go back and do 1 and then maybe 3. Again, we'll talk about that more in detail. But if anybody that's wondering why is 2 so popular, it was silently one of the best. It's got a huge cult following for 2.
Right.
Me being one of those people. So that's why they selected that instead of going to the first one and doing that over again. So that clears that up.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the introduction of Pyramid Head, who is an icon for the franchise at this point.
Yep.
And, it's Silent Hill 2 is where a lot of people sort of entered the franchise as well. It's
Mhm.
Right.
as far as Silent Hill goes, and I feel bad making this connection, but it's sort of the Final Fantasy VII of the game's franchise.
No,
It
you're
was
right.
the introduction to the franchise for a lot of people, and
Mhm.
so that is what they think of as Silent Hill.
'Cause I think a
Whereas for
lot of
me,
people in my position didn't have a PlayStation 1. We got a PlayStation 2 later. That's when it came out, and it came out, I
Right.
think, an earlier PlayStation 2 time, so it was readily available when you got the console.
yeah, and for me, it was Silent Hill 1 was the introduction, and then I didn't get to play 2. And then I played some of 3, and then I just kind of hadn't touched it again until Silent Hill, the Silent Hill 1 remake for Wii, which was also on PS2, but I played the Wii version.
Huh.
Um, and I
There's
loved that one. What?
Did you have to
What's up,
waggle
Jake?
the remote at all in this Silent Hill Wii?
Yeah, it's sort of like you hold it like it's your flashlight. So as you turn it,
That's
he
cool.
turns.
That's
That
cool.
And
sounds awful. Like,
That
no,
sounds
just
cool.
awful.
we're getting off on
Mm.
a tangent, but I'll explain real quick because I think we talked about this before. The game actually takes into account what you spend your time focusing on the first time through.
Oh, oh, that's cool.
And it sort of generates a psychological profile of you at the end of the game.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's
That's kinda neat.
pretty
I like that.
wild,
I do
and
like that.
the certain things that you do and choose to respond to because you're like back and forth between gameplay and interactions with a therapist. And
Mm,
things that you do with the therapist, responses, sometimes you're given a coloring book. Color this page and choose the paint colors and stuff. These things have an effect on the main gameplay after you have those therapist interactions.
that's
So,
cool.
what Silent Hill does, I've always loved what Silent Hill does because it takes what we just think of it like a lot of times it gets lumped in as Silent Hill as survival horror, but
Mhm.
Silent Hill and Resident Evil really have very little in common other than you're playing as somebody running around a town that's trying to kill them.
With
Like,
tank controls. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Sinstar in
It's
chat just took
Silent
the
Hill
words out
is
of my
so much
mouth. Don't
more.
stare at the boobs with a flashlight in this game because the game will judge you if you're staring at all the asses in the game. That's a whole other kind of
100%
horror.
complete fetish monger. Fantastic.
But I mean, I thought that was really cool. So I was really excited to see what this remaster does. And after I got to watch Chard play some of it, I was like, oh, okay, this doesn't hurt my eyes. I like to watch it. The acting is
Yeah.
far improved.
Oh,
And
huge.
which was a reference, like
Massive.
that's what I said at the opening, the Lost.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
girl you meet at the very beginning of the game, she's in the original game, she says it like she's never heard the word in her life.
Right. Or she's like realizing that she just woke up, like she fell asleep in the cemetery and has been there all fucking day. Like it's really bad. And there the inflection about emotion and stuff. This game is dark. This game has a lot of heavy trigger warning type stuff that's in it. The original had the same, and this one's not pulling any punches in the remake, which is I appreciate as the person that played the original. I really appreciate, but it is very dark. Um, a lot of psychological stuff that goes through this. Um, but you don't feel it with the original characters. Like I'm glad we went back and played the OG before the new one came out because now I love the first one. I think it's great. I think it's great for its time, but it's definitely a product of its time. And hey, look at this dumbass. Um, that's me for those of you who are listening. Um, so I got to hear the original and be like, okay, let's see how they improved upon this stuff because the voice acting, when you meet Eddie for the first time and he's throwing up in the toilet, you're just like, what the fuck is going on here? Like he's just like he just sounds stupid as hell. And I know that's the portrayal because he's not very intelligent, but it just feels weird to have him there doing his thing. And it feels weird to have Angela there doing her thing. Like Wolf said, she's like, lost. And you're like, what do you do? Like, are you not on this plane of existence? There's just you don't feel a connection. Even Maria seems very choppy and almost too she's too sexualized. And that's what they're going for in that, but it's almost like too much, but it's a product of its time. And now it's a lot
Yeah.
more it feels like it's subtle. It's more subtle. You know it's there. You played the original, you know it's there, but it's not like in your face about like
Yeah.
the whole kind of thing. So
The
this is
character designs for Silent Hill, the original one, I think it's a Konami thing. The way they did faces
yeah,
looks terrible. There's like a weird uncanny valley with the face, like the mouth, especially
yeah.
looks particularly creepy. Maybe that's the vibe, but I think I've seen them do other games in that era with the same kind of facial structure. Maybe it's an animation thing or a lip syncing thing, but they always looked weird to me, and it was always a turnoff. I never,
Yeah.
I never cared for the visual style of the PS2, or at least Konami's PS2 heads. Like it just never fit right. It's much better in the remake, like light years better in the remake in terms of
Oh,
graphics.
it better be for 2024. I mean,
Yeah, 20 years
not
later.
to poo-poo the original, you know, it looked good for the piece PlayStation 4 when it first came or PlayStation 2 it came out. You know, I remember picking it up and being like, "Holy crap, this thing looks amazing." Like I just got done playing something on my fucking Super Nintendo and now I'm playing a third person fully 3D rendered, not post rendered environment and you're running up and down hallways and it's this creepy fog and this creepy sound and air around you and there's twigs crackling behind you but you can't see anything. It this game terrified me and it even in the middle of the day, like this game scared the shit out of me. It was extremely well designed. The way that the light shines just enough for you to see exactly where you need to go but not enough to give you a full view of what's in front of you. And I
Right.
think a lot of the tank controls and the overhead third person view helped with that view as well. You don't have that in the new one. And when we talk a little bit more about the remake, I'll go into how that looks different there. But
So the
it's
original
just
had tank controls?
yes, the original all
It
the
didn't
original
have
Silent Hills were tank controls,
really? Because
just
the
like
PS2
Resident Evil.
had analog sticks, didn't it? It did,
It
right?
did, but it was early in the PS2 life, and I don't know if this is true, and my argument is that it was so early that they were still using maybe the original setup of Silent Hill when they made 2,
Okay.
and they just beefed up the graphics to make it look nice, and then you get, like, Hitman 2 that came out, and then they had to do then you could use dual sticks, and then they started pushing the dual stick stuff, but this is all tank control.
So what's the camera controls in the original one? Is it the shoulder buttons?
Yes, you can hold one to the shoulder buttons and it'll go if you come out of a room and you're facing James is facing you essentially. Once you walk away from the wall, if you hold down the camera button, it'll swing around and get behind him, but not if there's something in front of the camera, it'll just get locked up
Right.
in there. So you're like,
I think that's
this
one of the things we
sucks.
take for granted these days is this kind of game or just third person games in general in the modern era. You get really spoiled with the idea of having a right joystick devoted just to camera control. And like we didn't have that on the PS1 for sure. It was D-pad and then you had the shoulder buttons. And then but the PS2 to hear a game in the PS2 also not use the right analog stick when it came by
Right.
default on the controller. That's kind of messed up. Um
And
Well,
yeah.
the irony
and
is when I played the original, I kept trying to use that stick, knowing it was tank
ah,
control, but even then my brain is like, "Oh, I just need to swing the camera out." It's like, "Goddamn stick doesn't work. Why doesn't the stick work?" Oh, that's right. It's got different controls.
apparently for
Crazy.
Silent Hill 2, tank controls were an optional thing.
Oh, were they? I didn't know how to turn
Yeah.
Okay.
that shit off. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I
this game
played
had
it
all
on
the
hard mode then.
options. No white noise, tank
Yeah.
controls.
Is that after
Did
you
you have to
beat
beat
it,
the
Wolf,
game
that
to
you
unlock
can
analog
change it
sticks?
to dual stick? Is it after you fucking beat it?
That I don't know. I just saw on Reddit somebody was telling somebody else, "Start with 2 because tank controls are optional in that one." So,
Oh, I didn't know
Interesting.
that. I wasn't aware of
Gosh,
that.
who picks tank controls? Who sits there with their shiny PS2 and thinks, "Huh, yeah, give me tank controls. I want this to
I
suck. I want to be able
well,
to
to be
not move
fair,
around."
we
this
still
guy.
had tank controls in that era. Like Dreamcast did the same thing with Resident Evil Code Veronica.
Mhm.
No, no, that was definitely D-pad though, wasn't it?
I'm
Shit, it's
pretty
been
sure Code
ages.
Veronica still had tank controls.
I thought it was.
I
I
don't
thought
think
it
they
was.
had left that behind yet.
Man, it's been forever since I played
And
Code Veronica. I'll have to check that out.
pretty
Yeah.
sure for whatever reason, I think tank controls hung around in survival horror games longer than for other types of games
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
well past their prime.
I
I,
just
I
think it was
guess.
part of the motif. Like, I just think it was
Right.
something that you're like, you're gonna play Resident Evil or Silent Hill, you're gonna get tank controls. It's just it comes
Yeah,
with the game.
because the back is backing up like, "Oh shit,
Right.
something's coming to get me," you know?
Exactly.
That
And a
that
lot of
makes
the cameras
sense. But
are facing you when you come
right.
out of doors and stuff. So
Mhm.
it adds to I can't see what's in
Okay.
front of me. It adds to the fear factor of my radio's going off, right? It's making the hiss, but I can't see anything and I can't swing my camera around because I'm up against a wall. So it just adds to more like anxiety inducing moments from that game
Yeah.
on.
Nothing more suspenseful than as you slowly shuffle to turn around the slowest possible speed to run away
Yeah.
from Pyramid Head.
This is
You're right. It's a
clearly
motif
the
thing. It's
camera is the
definitely on
final
brand
boss
for
on
this
this one.
this genre. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I like the way this is set up. Like I like the difference between because with Resident Evil, and I'll do my comparisons between Resident Evil and Silent Hill here and there. Resident Evil, you're in a tech area, you're in the mansion. It always looks the same. Like the mansion, there's things that change, there's slight things that changes, but the mansion always looks like the mansion. Like there's no big thing. Your biggest fear is surviving the goddamn dogs and the zombies that are roaming around the house. With Silent Hill, your environment completely flips on its head. Like you'll be walking into a room, the goddamn sirens will go off, you'll start panicking, and then all the walls turn into like flesh rust. And now you're in the same spot. Your map says you're in the same area, but everything's different. And things that you could go in are now closed off. There's new things hunting you and you're like, I know where I'm supposed to. I can't get to where I just came from there. I
There's a
can't get
chain
there
link fence
anymore.
in the way. What the hell?
Exactly. Yep. Or there's a fan or something. There's something that wasn't there before, and it's just so empty when you get there, and it's scary
Okay.
because you
Could you
don't
maybe
you
explain the
know I'm going to
story?
open a door
Be-
and see a zombie in Resident
right.
Evil. You don't know what the hell you're going to see in Silent Hill.
So I'm sadly I did not have time to play this game. I've only seen you play it, and I've always been confused whenever I watch your stream of this game. I never know what the hell's going on. What's the general story of this game? Because
Okay.
especially now that you explain it's a standalone title. It's not
Mhm.
related to the first game, right? Except for being in the same Silent Hilliverse,
Genre.
I guess.
Right.
But what's the
Right.
story of this one?
So the story of this particular Silent Hill 2, for those of you who are just now popping into either the video or the podcast for whatever reason, Silent Hill 2 starts out with James Sutherland. standing on the edge of what looks like an outlook to the town of Silent Hill. Um, he starts in the bathroom. You see him splashing water in his face. He obviously looks very distressed about something, and he walks out. And then there's a voiceover that sounds like a woman saying, you know, you said you'd always take me back here, but you never got around to doing it. So I'm here waiting for you in our special place. Then he starts to talk. His voiceover comes over and says, Mary died of this damn disease 3 years ago. How am I getting a letter from her to have her meet me here? She's gone. Is she really
Okay.
here? Did she really die that day? And then he's going to go investigate to see how he got this letter of his perished wife 3 years prior to a disease that she passed away from. And then insanity ensues. And he meets 4 people that are in the city, and one of them I still question if it's actually a person or not, that live here that are also looking for someone or something in this town as well. And they're seeing is not what you're seeing. So it's almost like Silent Hill designs your own psychological trauma to fit you,
Okay.
and you have to deal with it. So if, say, Wolf and I go to Silent Hill, my inadequacies of being a good husband may pop up as my fears, and his there's nothing wrong with Wolf because he's perfect, so he won't see what I'm dealing with, and if he had some kind of trauma he was dealing with, I wouldn't see what he's looking at, I would only see what I'm seeing, if that makes
So
sense. Like, it's almost like
so if
it's got a magical power that
so if I go
messes
to
with you.
Silent Hill, I wouldn't see the flesh and rust covered walls. I would just see giant cans of Dr. Pepper peppered
Yes,
across
Oh,
yes,
the
no,
landscape.
exactly,
no,
and us
you
berating
would
you
still
about balloon fight
see
and Stark and Charlie.
you would still see rust-covered walls, because that's what
I mean, the same
happens is,
color.
like,
It's the same
when
color, right?
you when you cross over from basically, I refer to it as here, and, like, I've kinda always thought of Silent Hill as purgatory and hell.
Yep.
Okay.
And
That's
so
a good
you're
way to
either in
describe it.
purgatory or you're in hell. Purgatory basically looks like here. Hell has the rusted walls, the industrial worn chain link fences everywhere, that sort of feel.
Right. I
And
think
I
in
mean,
the
I'm sure
remake,
that
they call it the other side. I think that's what they refer to it in the
yeah, you
remake.
Okay.
can liken it to the Upside Down in Stranger
Yeah,
Things. It's just
exactly.
I don't know if it has an official term, and so I've pretty much very oversimplified it, but that's kind of the idea, and that's how I've always thought of it.
I
So
always thought of it as hell too. Yeah.
they don't really explain what the other side is? Like, do they give you the science behind it, the lore behind it, or is it just more this is Silent Hill, it's a
You're
horror game, and the story is more about the relationship with your dead wife, and it's not necessarily explaining the universe itself.
I think I can answer that a little bit. It
Go for
is
it.
Okay.
more about the relationship with the dead wife and James's internal issues that he has psychologically or otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, if you want the overall story of Silent Hill as a whole, you kind of have to play all of them because throughout all the games, this information is fed to you piecemeal.
Yep. Yep.
And
Okay.
so, like, we're talking Silent Hill Origins for the PSP, Silent Hill
Yep.
The Room, Silent
Yep.
Hill
Right.
3, all of them have bits
Yep.
and pieces that when all plugged together, you're like, "Oh, that's what
Right.
Silent Hill is."
So the
Yeah.
reason I'm asking is
Silent
something
Hill's
like
origin is explained in like kind of a magical sense and altogether.
okay.
So, like Wolf said, you get the pieces from everything else, but what two does is it focuses on the main character's trauma in the city, not
Right.
just the city as a whole. It's kind of
Mm,
almost like the city's a side character and you're just a part of it, what's going on.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm asking because like the games I've been playing lately have been Alan Wake, and Alan Wake 2. I also play
Mhm.
Control, and those are games that can be very horror like Silent Hill, but they explain what the world is. They explain the science, for lack of a better term, of what the world is and what the bad guy is. So I was just kind
Yeah.
of curious because by the end of Alan Wake, you understand what's happening to the main character. You
Well,
understand why they've traversed a different dimension, type of thing.
That's you
So
actually made a good analogy there without realizing it. Control has the FBC, the building, right?
mhm.
It's
right,
almost like another character in the story.
Yep.
Silent
okay,
Hill is very much the same thing.
okay,
And unlike Dark Souls stories, this story gets wrapped up in a nice little bow. Like
Okay.
while you're there, his James' story comes together as you're there, and you realize things while you're with him, going, "Holy shit!" Like there's a whole area when you get to a certain spot of the game where basically everything comes out, and you realize why you're there, and you realize why James kind of the way he is, and all this stuff, and you get fed little tidbits throughout the game, like Wolf says, like with notes and but you don't have to read the weapons, you don't have to read the armor. It's someone's telling you about it. You have Maria tells you a lot about what's going on because spoilers. I think Maria is part of the town. I don't think she really exists. She's I think she's part of a of an apparition that the town created to torment James in a sense because it looks just like his wife. Um, but she gives him little things that you're like while you're playing and she's with you. You're like, what is she talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why does she know that? How does she know that? And as you keep going more and more, and at the very end, like towards the very end of the game, there's a realization as you are with the character to James, where you're like, oh my God. And he does the same thing, and then you progress and you try to get out of the you try to get out of the town after you kind of go like a light bulb turns on, but it's a very dark and twisted light bulb.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
It's very
my
evil.
experience with Silent Hill is even when it's a good ending, it's not a happy ending, right?
No,
Okay.
And
no.
this is very much the same way, and I'm pretty sure this one from what I've been, like, exposed to regarding Silent Hill 2 as a whole, like, this one has some of the darkest endings out of the franchise
Mhm.
in terms of the main character.
Yep, yep. I don't know if we wanna go into much spoiler territory. I have not
No, I
finished
don't
the
wanna spoil
remake.
it for people
Okay, good.
because
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I don't either.
I just
The
I've obviously beaten the original, but I have not finished the remake, but I wanna hearken to a few cool things that they both do in tandem at
yeah.
some point.
I
Um,
do want to say that I'm not going to spoil the endings, but there are 8 of them and there's a couple from the original game that are quite weird. I'll just say the terms dog ending and UFO ending, which are
yeah,
kind of like
there's fun
weird
endings.
ones, and they're in the
yeah.
They're
remake.
fun
So
endings. Yeah,
they definitely seem to have copied all the off the wall crazy weird stuff definitely in the
right.
remake. It seems like they've done a really faithful job of that.
Blooper did their homework. I mean, I know a lot of people were really nervous about Blooper taking on. I know they're
Yeah.
not some people weren't fans of their game medium, which wasn't terrible. But from what I seen, I didn't play it, but I mean, I looked it over because I wanted to see who was gonna take on the reins of one of my all-time favorite horror games. And I they did their homework. Like, they really did, and what they did, because I finished Silent Hill 3 in 5 hours, essentially. I think my save file said 5 hours. And I was going through it pretty quickly, to be honest with you, and I had been playing it previously off stream before I was like, "Let's play this together," and before the remake comes out so we can all kinda compare the 2 together. I am at day 5 or 6 of playing this, and I'm just now getting out of the hospital, which is like the 2nd main area, 3rd main area you going into the game. So
Okay.
they have they have very much stretched this out into a very positive way where it's not fluff. They didn't add filler. They didn't add what Sinistar likes to call, the control filler where you use the R2 and R1 to open a door and it slows everything down.
Right.
They really peppered in some cool shit and it wasn't the same as the original. There are Easter eggs
Yeah.
littered all over the new game from original spots in the game. Like there's a spot where Maria comes out you're in the hotel looking for stuff and you crawl through a wall and you pick up some items you need and then you go back into the room that she's in and she's holding the dress from the original Silent Hill 2 because she's not wearing the same thing. She's wearing totally different. And she's got the exact same dress that Maria wears in the OG. And she goes, "You think I'd look very good on this?" And you can decide on her reaction. If you say something, then she'll be like, "You might be a little too picky for this." And she'll put it back. Or if you just leave, she goes, "Wow, really strong with words, aren't you?" Like they actually, there's
Yeah.
actually like cool interactions about what you do. It's not the same script every time.
Yeah,
So
one of the things that I know people kind of nitpicked on the original Silent Hill 2 was the choice of font on a certain sign when you're in the town, and it was in Comic
Comic
Sans,
Sans.
which, is that
Yeah.
goofy font. And then in this one, In the remake, if you go into one of the side buildings, on the floor, discarded, is a copy of that sign with the Comic
Yeah.
Sans. So, like, you're
Yep.
right. When we say Bloober Team did their homework, they really did. And
They did.
I'm fine with them taking on this kind of thing because Konami, I mean, just a few short years ago, I mean, Konami wasn't even making games anymore. They were making pachinko machines and slot machines with
Yep.
their IP. They were doing nothing with their IP. It's only over the last couple of years they've started to not themselves do it, but to branch out and get other companies to make games with their IPs again, which I'm all for it, right? I mean, some of it's been hit or miss, like the Metal Gear Solid compilation that was released didn't do so hot because it was maybe not remastered as well as it could have been. And I
Yeah.
know people had concerns about Bloober Team from some of their past games, but when I looked at their past games, the ratings, I mean, it was 65, 70, 75. Not bad games. I mean, maybe not,
Yeah.
game of the year stuff, but they didn't have a bad track record. So I was curious to see what this would be like. But everything I've seen review wise of Silent Hill 2 Remake is 100% positive, off the
Yeah.
charts. A lot of people compare it to what Capcom does with their remakes of Resident Evil in terms of you're fleshing it out, you're changing it just enough, but still remaining faithful. And
Yep.
just like the graphic work is just so much better. So
It's
honestly, if this is what Konami's going to do with their remakes, I'm really excited for the Metal Gear Solid one that's coming. Or is it Metal Gear Delta? I think
yep.
they've hired
Delta.
someone to do.
Yeah.
Snake Eater. Yeah. Hmm.
So I mean, if they keep this kind of stuff going, like if they keep this level of quality with their remakes, I'm all for it. Like, cause this one looks really good for people watching the YouTube. I'm putting up clips of Silent Hill 2 that Chard was playing through, the new one, and it looks so good. It's up there with
It's
Alan Wake in
clean.
terms of visuals.
It's super clean. It really
Yeah,
is clean, and it just expands upon the city a lot more, the town a lot more than what you would originally take in when you played it before. Some areas are a little bit smaller, but the branching areas, like I feel like they've shrunk down the city, like in the entirety of the town has been compartmentalized a lot more, but they've added locations that are more detailed and higher detail and look a lot cooler. I found myself in the original wandering around a lot and not getting anywhere where I needed to go just because I was kind of exploring. This one is a lot more linear in that sense, but
okay.
it still allows you to explore up to certain points. Like there's cracks in the streets you can't pass and chasms and big chain link fences with with the white drapery on it that you can't get through. But you can still wander around the town and find items that you need, go bullets,
Yeah.
health, or whatever.
You know
But
what
it
though?
still kind of leads you. Go
I'm
ahead.
good with that nowadays. Like we had a good 10-year span where everybody was doing open world games.
Yeah.
Open
Hmm.
world games, you'd open the map and there'd be 1,000 things in that map of icons, the things to mess around with. It was all inconsequential, all busy work, all just there for being the
Yep.
sake of there. And I burned out on like Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs. There's a few games where it just I didn't want to explore the entire map. I just wanted what was the important key parts of the story and maybe the occasional side stuff. But I like it
Hmm.
when it's a bit more linearity to it. And I'm glad that we're got a trend of games going back to this kind of storytelling. I don't mind it being linear. I mean, I like that you can explore a little bit off the beaten path for things, but I'm glad it's not a whole town and you just have to explore all of it. That would drive me nuts, and I would bounce so hard off this game. I like the way they've changed that direction.
It definitely feels that when you first enter the town that you have to do some exploration, but it leads you. It does little breadcrumbs for you to go, oh, I should probably go going this way. And it's easy to get turned around and go, hey, I'm going to go down and check this way when it's trying to lead you over here, which is what we did. And then eventually I found where we needed to go and we went in from there. But if you were like focused and not raccoon braining like I was the whole time, like, oh, shiny, everything's so fucking shiny here, you would probably be able to lead into the next set of stuff to find um, wherever your next path is. The map in this is tenfold, 1,000 times better. He makes notations on the map, and in the original, he would make notations on the map, but it was more like just circle something. This one, he'll
Right.
circle if you solve a puzzle, he'll check it. He'll write down codes that he finds. Like there's a there's a code you find in the hospital, and he'll put the code next to where the lockbox is on the map. So you just pull
Oh,
up the map and
nice.
go, "Oh, my code's right
Nice.
here," and then you could type it in and keep it going from there. It's the accessibility has been, I mean, the quality of life changes in this game,
Right.
other than the graphics and everything else, has been absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool because I do remember, even in the original, like you get the map and it would like squiggle things off or X and
Mhm,
circle, but that was
mhm.
kind of the extent of it.
Yeah.
And
this one
I
writes down, like, important information, and if you don't have what you need, it'll still be written in there and circled, and it'll say, like, needs like a jack handle or something to open up a garage.
yeah,
So you can look at it and be like, "Oh, I found the jack handle. I know where I need to take it." And you can take it back over there and unlock whatever it is you came to
Yeah.
unlock.
I
Um,
like that
that was
because I
pretty
mean,
cool too.
otherwise
I
it's not a game that you're going to want like a quest log or something, right? That would just
mhm,
be not immersive. I like how it's more immersive and
yeah,
that it's handwritten notes within the game itself. That's pretty neat.
yep,
I just saw a neat little detail watching Chard's gameplay there, where he turned and looked at like looked down the hall, and Maria was right in front of him, and she
yep.
put her arm up
Puts her
like, "Oh,
hands up.
your
Yep,
flashlight's too bright,
yep.
man."
Yep,
That was
every time you
cool.
flash
I
her with the
like that.
Yeah.
flashlight, she'll put her hand up and she'll be like, "Can you put the light away?" Like, she responds to a lot of stuff. You can break windows. This is one of my favorite things in the game is you can break windows for cars and
No car is
businesses.
safe.
No car is safe from shard, and you can pilfer what's inside of them. And if she's
Yeah.
with you and you break into something, at least 8 times out of 10, you'll hear her say something on the lines of, "I thought we were over this," or, "You really gonna go rampaging throughout town?" Like, she comments on all the stuff that you're kinda doing, and it's kind of fun. It's not like Navi annoying where you're like, "Bitch, okay. Yes, I'm gonna break another window again," you know? She'll take a break every now and then, but it's kinda neat if you go for a long strand and then you smash the window because there's a health juice back there, you wanna grab that. She goes, "God, you're insane. You just were just breaking everything today, aren't you?" And you're like,
You're not
Yes, I'm
Link. You
trying
can't
to get."
break these pots. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I love
exactly.
that.
So, it's cool. But I I've constantly said on numerous episodes how I have a hard time arguing that a remake should be a game of the year, and if the original was so good, then what makes the remake better? And then Dead Space came out and completely flipped that thought on its head, and now Silent Hill 2 remake has come out and has completely blown that theory out of the way. Because my theory is, as Motive did for Dead Space remake, Blooper has done for Silent Hill 2 remake. It's not the same company that's doing. It's like Capcom. Like, I could argue that Capcom remaking Resident Evil, you're like, yeah, it's cool, but you already did it, right? You kind of already did
Right.
it. But now you've got a whole nother team outside of your company putting their spin on this stuff. And when they're this good and this true to the source material as Motive was for Dead Space, I would gladly put this at the top of my game of the year list right now. This has
Right.
been so damn good. I have been so excited to come home for the weekends. Like, everybody's working for the weekend. Chard's come working for Silent Hill 2 to come home and play this goddamn game. I have not been so jacked to play a video game since Erd Tree came out, or even
Right.
Dead Space Remake came out. It's been that much fun to play.
I think there's
Well, that
definitely a difference
was
between remake and remaster, right? A remaster usually just means upscaling the textures, maybe redoing the models, like not a whole lot of work, right? But then there's a remake, right? And when we're talking remakes, we're talking like Final Fantasy VII is a remake, right? When they did that one, it's not like Resident Evil 2 and 3, definitely remakes. I mean, they're more than a remaster, right? They took everything that's
Right.
pre-rendered and rethought everything from the ground up for those games. And I think it's the same here with Silent Hill 2. It's a remake, not a remaster. And I think it's totally a good candidate for Game of the Year. I would definitely say go for it if it's on your list.
Yes. You were saying, Wolf?
wasn't that an issue with Resident Evil 2 as well? The fact that it didn't really translate over like exactly the way the original did with the remake, because there's more kind of overlap that treats, let's say you're on scenario B, you'll do parts that scenario A did exactly
Yeah.
the same as if scenario A didn't.
Mm. Hmm. I never played
And
B, so I don't have a. I only did the first scenario with Leon, um, so I don't know how that played out. But I think I did hear something about that. Yeah.
Like I think
whereas
Resident Evil
in
4
the
remake was
original,
more faithful to the original or more of a remaster. Like, it was definitely a remake, but it was more closer tied to the original. And I think that's why people were complaining that Resident Evil 4 remake shouldn't have been Game of the Year contender. Although I think end of the day, who cares? But I think
Right.
that's what the issue was.
I can't speak on 4. I just watched my brother play a few hours of the original and never
Yeah.
played the
And I
remake.
played it.
So,
I played maybe a few hours of 4 myself
like,
versus that, and it looks just like a bare bones rebuild, but the same source material, like a same exact kinda playthrough.
Right.
But if this game doesn't win some kind of sound award like Alien Isolation did,
oh my
where
goodness,
I'm gonna
It's
raise
creepy.
hell.
Yeah.
It's terrible
I was
in the
playing
best way
this
possible.
I was playing this earlier today actually, and I had the volume, I had coming out a little sound bar I have for my computer, and I had the volume up higher than I realized. So when it came to a fight with one of those go-go dancer monster things, it was just like, and that's not a spoiler. They're the first things you fight in the game.
Yeah.
Um, there was so much noise just, and I don't mean that as like an assault on my senses, but between the bashing with the plank with nails in it and the screeches this thing was making and the
Yeah.
yak sounds from it spitting and all the steps and dodges, and not just that, but the white noise that's going on and the change to the music. And
Mhm.
even after everything was like, it scared the crap out of me just how loud everything was because I had the volume way too high for what I was doing. So that was adding to it, making me on
Right.
edge. But then after the fight ended and everything started to mellow out, I noticed like a sort of drop in what was going on musically in the background to fade
Mhm.
away instead of just
Yep.
like disappearing at the end. Like it actually sort of, there was a beat from a drum that just kind of got slower until it stopped. And
It
I was
almost
like, man, that's
crescendos,
really
like,
cool.
Yeah.
down a little bit, and it has this great
Yeah.
from just anxiety inducing, "Oh, shit, things are hitting the fan," and then you finally when you're sitting there breathing and James's
Yeah. He,
labored breathing in this game is amazing, amazing addition to whatever, and not even when he's hurt, just, like, the man's tired. You could just tell, you know? It's just it's too well done. I brought out my old 7.1 immersive headphones for this because I was like, I have to live this. I can't just
Yeah.
listen to it. I have to live it. And putting those on has made all the difference in this game. It was already fantastic, and with these things on, it's horrifying. Absolutely horrifying.
yeah, that's another thing is like you said, he's breathing through a shutter after some of these fights and you could hear it. Like
Yeah.
that's so cool.
There's so much good detail with the sound in
Like
this. So much good.
sound design
There's a
in
lot
this game is spectacular for real.
there's some of the monsters you fight, they used to make a certain sound in Silent Hill that I remember specifically. It sounded like almost like a rusty wheel. Like, when you beat them, when you hit them with the plank, it sounded like "Quah, quah," like that kind of fucking sound. Turn down your headphones,
Somebody
guys. I
clip
should have
that.
probably put a headphone yeah, and, in this one, they don't make it so much, but it's almost subtly, like, when it's on the ground, it's the ones you call the penguin ones, Wolf, the spitters,
Yeah.
the hawk-tuas, as we call them. They, when you hit them, they, and when they're on the ground, they'll make that sound, but it's really subtle, but it sounds just like the original game where you're like, "Oh, I heard that. That's cool."
Careful,
So,
that monster's got a hit podcast I've heard. So
it does have a hit podcast.
I
Speaking
was
of
trying to
hits
find. I had the video off for a second. I was trying to find the clip of what when I watched you play the other day. The they're called the mannequins, I guess, but they're they're the
oh, with the
monster
legs.
with two legs
Yeah,
and the legs for hands or some nonsense. What
yeah.
the some of the creature designs I just can't wrap my brain around. And that and Pyramid Head. You guys got to explain what the hell's with Pyramid Head. There's got to be some kind of lore behind it, origin. What do they give you about Pyramid Head in this game? Because he is so weird.
Other than just being a terrible, terrible, horrible creature, I don't know much of the absolute lore of Pyramid Head. This his introduction was into
Right.
Silent Hill 2, right? So he first came about during the time. I have a theory. This is totally my own theory, my own bullshit head trap. So come to our Discord, press me to cancel Discord. Come to pressbtocancel.com. Tell me how wrong I am or how you don't think this theory even matches up. But my theory is that all the creatures that James fighting in some way, shape, or form have to do with his wife's ailment and how he dealt with it. That's my 100% my theory on that. I think that straight jacket spitters that are rocking around there, the boomers, because they kind of attack you like boomers. I think that's his wife sickness, throwing up. I think she had some throwing up sicknesses, and he was dealing with that because they throw up a lot. They spit at you a lot. Um,
Okay.
I don't know what the mannequins have. Something that has to do with her legs that were messed up. Maybe she couldn't walk. I think she was in a wheelchair at some point. Not sure about that. Can't tell. nurses. Obviously, nurses were there to nurse her back to health. She was in and out of hospitals, so I'm assuming that that's what that correlation is. And this is what my theory is. And he's more of a butcher than this, but I feel
Right.
like Pyramid Head is some sort of head doctor kind of concept.
Or like
I
a
know it's
psychiatrist.
crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe a psychiatrist, but more like a surgeon, more of someone who was like he kept like telling her that we could cut all these pieces out and we can save her from her disease, but it never happened. None of this is mentioned. There is nothing as in depth of this. This is completely my own head case that I think that this game works in my head. Because that's and then there's a bunch of other creatures that pop up in and out of Silent Hill, but I feel like James's trauma is being realized in those monsters that were connected to his wife's ailment that she passed away from 3 years later. And then there's something later that you find out about both of them that also kind of bring a lot of that together as well. So again, totally my own head canon. Nothing is written unless somebody on Reddit has the same thought process that I do. You might stumble upon someone saying the same shit. I didn't read that. I completely created that in my own head, but that's what kind of helps me think of what the game's doing itself. So Pyramid Head, I just think is he's like he's not the big bad, really, but he's almost like a he's like a groundskeeper for the other side, and he's just
Like
cleaning shit up and trying to bring shit
he's like
back.
Mr. X or Tyrant from Resident Evil, right? Like he just constantly like stalking you around the level? Is that the idea?
No, he's not
No?
like Mixer X where he'll pop in every now and then, but I think he's trying to keep the shit from leaving the other side, and that's why he's trying to catch you and bring you in or catch something and bring it back in because he drags bodies back into the other side. You follow him in Silent Hill 2 Remake, you follow him into the other side. That's your first venture into the other side.
Okay.
He kills one of the mannequins and then drags it by its leg through a door, and then you go through that door and you wind up in essentially hell, as Wolf and
Yeah.
I have described it.
When I looked the character up on Wiki, it's just said it doesn't like yeah, there wasn't much backstory to it. The shape of the head, the creator wanted to kind of like give the impression that it's a painful helmet, that he represents pain
Hmm.
in some
Hmm.
fashion, like you said, the psychological element, but in a physical form. So this weird, long, uncomfortable, painful helmet that he wears, and he runs around with a giant knife. They call it a great knife, which I think is funny. It looks like a
Hmm.
sword to me. Calling it a
It
knife is
looks like a
definitely a
busted
Final
card.
Fantasy trope,
Yeah,
but
the fight,
it's
the f-
interesting.
the f-
Yeah,
the fight with him in the second one is far more terrifying than the fight in the first one. Now, in the first one, you got the tank controls and you got the fucked up camera angle and all this stuff, and you're just shooting him, and
right,
he's slowly lurching towards you, dragging this knife. But this one, he's like running at you in the
right.
remake, and you're just like you turn around to fire at him, and he's already on you, and you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy's so
I
fast.
I like that though, because that's that kind of change in the horror genre though over the years, right? It used to be that zombies were super slow, and it was the anxiety of them getting closer and closer to you. But modern horror, it's all about fast zombies now, fast creatures coming at you that you can't escape. So
Yep.
I like that. Even in games, we see that shift where it's like slow horror to fast horror. I think that's
Yeah,
kind of neat. I was
there's
trying to
no
find
escaping it.
footage of you fighting Pyramid Head, but all I see is hot nurses, hot scary nurses. So,
I
but
it
the
was
monster
early on.
design, yeah,
I think day 3, one of the
was it
earlier
okay?
episodes. I think we fight him,
But
but
it's an
yeah.
interesting design. I've seen cosplay of Pyramid Head over the years. I've seen Jessica Nigiri do a really great Pyramid Head. It's something to see. It's a very iconic villain, like with the shape, right? Like
Mhm.
I think people recognize Pyramid Head more than they would Tyrant or Mr. X. I think like
Yep.
they did a really great job with that character. I just again I kind of wish I knew the backstory of the character more. I'm looking at this from the Alan Wake perspective. I like the backstory to the characters in the world more. I wish there was some of that in this, but very
Yeah, I
creepy
just think
design
he was
though.
just designed to be creepy, and
Yeah,
he's just there, and you just gotta accept that you're in his house, and he lives there, and
right.
you're like, "Oh, how'd you get there?" He goes, "I bought the fucking house. I don't know, I moved in. Like, what do you want?" You're like, "Well, what do you do for a living?" "I stab people with a big fucking knife and drag them into hell. I mean, that's all I do."
Like, have you seen the housing prices in the regular world? I have to move all the way to the other side to get a fucking house. Like it's just the rates are cheaper over here.
Yeah. We
Insurance
definitely
is higher,
discussed
but mortgage is
how much
cheap.
rents we definitely discussed how much rent was in Silent Hill, and it certainly isn't even with those apartments that are all ransacked like that, it's still
Yeah.
pretty gross.
Well, I mean, the landlords skimp on the rust paint, so
The Rust-Oleum. I want to
Rust-Oleum,
talk
yeah.
about I want to talk about the combat in this particular game because there's been
Yes.
a lot of discussion about people worried about the combat being too combat-y, if that's the best way to say. Like, let's just take the original. You hold down a trigger, he gets into a position, and you get a gun, you get three different guns, and you get a plank, and eventually you get the Pyramid Head's sword later on, way later on in the
You
game.
you mean his
Um,
knife.
yeah, you get his Buster knife. Um, but the plank is like your bread and butter throughout the entire game because it doesn't waste ammo. It's a survivor horror, so you don't want to use anything up as much as I was being very very stingy with my first playthrough. But basically, you raise the plank over your head and you just beat shit to death. That's how you do it. There's not a lot of there's no there's nothing to it. You just beat the whole point is to try and beat the thing to submission until it's dead. And you try not to let it attack you within your swings. That's it. That's a combat in Silent Hill 2. That's it. Silent Hill 2 remake combat, there's a dodge button. There's a dodge button. There's animation that you're unaware of, like the frickin' oh yeah, Pyramid Head is right there. You just if you back up, you'll see him
Uh,
drag
oh,
the
shoot.
mannequin into the other world. You were like right
Oh,
there.
well.
Um, this is one of the things that scared the shit out of me was shooting the gun in the closet. Um, so in this, there's a dodge button, there's positioning, and the things actually like the mannequins were the least scariest creatures in the first original game. They were fine. They'd sit there, you'd come up, your radio would start buzzing. You're like, oh, there's legs sticking out of that thing. Go over and beat the hell out of it, right? You're good. Okay, I'm clear. This one, no. They don't set off your radio until you shine your light on them or until you get into their personal space. Then they start moving. So they sneak up on you all the damn time. Then when you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna go toe to toe with you," thing with either my lead pipe or my plank with nails, it can duck your swings. So when you swing at it, it'll fucking do one of these moves out of the way, and then it'll come up and kick you in the ass. And they are the worst damn things to fight outside the nurses in this game. I was super pleased that they made one of what would have been one of the least consequential demons running around this hell actually a far more terrifying than they were originally. I've got more jump scares from the mannequins than than Pyramid Head from this game. So even as goofy as they look and how, it's just they're just fleshy things with legs on their for arms that were, whatever happened with that design, but they're horrifying. They're so damn terrifying. It's such a good layout. And the way that they redesigned the characters and the demons and all the things that you're running into are so clean. I mean, Pyramid's head's hands look like fucking eels in the original. Like it looks like he's got socks on his hands when
Right.
he's doing that. I feel like expect him to start talking like snakes out of his hands. And he's got like I guess he's got higher webbing now in the original. It's whatever flesh webbing he's got on his hands, but there is still very defined fingers when he's staring at you through the closet. You're like, I'm hiding here comfortably. And he's like, nah, bro, I see you. I'm seeing you and I'm just going to take my time. Then you fire a couple shots at him and then he tweaks out and he walks away. But he just seems impossible to deal with.
Do
And I like
enemies
that.
swarm you in this one, or is it more of like a one-on-one type combat?
No, it's not. It's dependent. I've been swarmed by nurses in the hospital when I set off an alarm on accident.
Okay.
And if you get swarmed, there's no help. I think it's a lot like Alan Wake, where it's best to take things one on one because it is
Right.
survival horror and you don't have unlimited amounts of ammunition to your disposal, and you can easily be snuck up on and beaten over the head with a lead pipe while you're trying to fight something else. Um, so there's a lot of try and divide and conquer when it comes to a lot of these certain combats. I
Yeah.
I just I think the combat is exceptionally well designed.
Even early
People
on,
were
you can accidentally
mm,
find yourself fighting 2 or 3 of those penguin go-go
yeah.
dancer things, and,
Yes, with the
you know,
go-go
if
boots,
that
yeah.
happens, you're kinda hosed. You're gonna go through your healing items real quick and
Okay.
probably not make it.
I felt this
So
game has been not forgiving. I feel like there's a good balance of finding resources, healing
okay.
materials, and weaponry throughout the game. Um, I still just walk around with my lead pipe. I don't like always having a gun out because I'm afraid I'm gonna waste all the ammunition I need. And so far,
Do
I've
you know?
needed to literally unload every clip on every boss that I've fought so far. So I'm
Okay.
glad that I've held on to all of my ammunition for at least the last fights.
Do you know if like the loot is random or if it's all like deliberately placed in places? Like, can you find
I
shotgun ammo when you need it? Is it based on how what you currently have, or is it just
No, I don't.
fixed? You know?
if
I think it's
I'm
fixed.
not if I'm not mistaken, it's fixed based on difficulty level you choose.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like it's not like Dead Space where I'm always wielding the plasma cutter, so I'm always gonna get plasma cutter ammunition. There are times where I have more shotgun ammo and I haven't even found the shotgun yet. I just managed to stumble upon some ammo before I got the weapon.
Okay.
But that was true in the original too, because it was almost like a homage to be like, "Hey, this is coming up pretty soon. Here's some shotgun ammo. You're gonna find it somewhere in this area," and you're like, "Oh shit, I got shotgun ammo. That means it's gonna be here. I can find it."
Right.
But the weapons are placed deliberately in puzzles or in locations. There will always be in the same spot. It's not like it's you kill something and you're like, oh, I'll pick it up. You know, it's not that kind of combat.
One of the things that bothers me about Alan Wake, the first one anyway, was after every area, it would take the weapons away from you, and you had to start it over again. And I hated that in Alan Wake. Is there anything like
hmm
that in this one, or like once you have the shotgun, you have it for the rest of the game?
So far, when I've died, I've been resurrected at the save point with pretty much everything that I had perished
Okay.
with. But I think it's more of a I save it and that's what I have when I save. So I don't think it's a clean slate and you have to go find all the shit again. If you didn't save it and you didn't find all the shit, then you have to go back and do whatever you did. But that's just because of your save point, not because of the rework. So
Okay. And you said there's bosses? How many bosses have you
yes,
seen so far? And are they bosses that were in the original game, or are they exclusive to the remake?
they're bosses with a twist. And I think I've fought three of them so far, two or three of
Okay.
them. Each chapter or each location has a showdown with something essentially. First one is Pyramid Head, and the next one is uh, thanks, Wolf. And the next one is I forget. It's called Flesh Lips. It's and if you when you see the picture of the monster, you'll be like, oh, okay, clever name. But in the original boss fight with Flesh Lips, there were three of them, and basically what it is, it looks like a body bag, like wrapped up, and it's hanging from the ceiling in a metal cage, and it's got flesh lips down by its leg. It's a mouth, so don't get any fucking dirty thoughts. And you have to run away from them in the original and shoot them and then run away. And there's three of them. They can grab you with their feet and basically choke you out. And you gotta waggle the controller to get out of there and then go from there.
Chard's building a
It,
psychological profile of me. I don't appreciate that.
wow.
Okay.
In the new one, there's one, but it hides up in the roof. And after you think you've beaten it and knock it down out the roof, the cage basically turns into spider legs, and you have to fight it on the ground chasing you. And then after you kill it,
Yeah.
another one grabs you and pulls you away and takes you into the other side or hell, and then you start the next chapter in hell in the same location. It's a really cool spin on the
Yeah.
original because the original was just like blow, blow, run to the other side of the room, look up, blow, blow, run to the other side of the room. It was very like it was very it just didn't seem like at the I guess when you first play it the first time, you're like, this is terrifying, but it just seemed like just getting through it was all you needed to do. This fight was like, I'm gonna fucking die. I'm gonna die. This thing's gonna kick my ass.
Right.
And eventually I beat it by beating it with a lead pipe because I ran out of ammo fighting it. Um, and then I gave it like a couple good whacks with the pipe and we put it down for good. But I really like again what Blooper has done to this thing and has really expanded upon it and made it so detailed and taking things that were mundane or minuscule and really ramping it up and making it really exciting. Like I said, the pyramid fight in the first one is very much run to one side of the room, fire a couple shots. When he gets close and he starts to wind up to swing, you run past him, get to the other side, fire a couple shots. This one, I turn around to fire at him. He's like grabbing for me, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" And there's a point where he like gets mad when you shoot him enough or you hit him enough that he gets really fast. and the
Okay.
pipes like burst and it's just like steam shooting out in the room and the whole room turns into like a whole distraction while you're trying to get by him while he's trying to grab or stab or do whatever he can to murder your ass. Um, and then you beat him and the sirens go on and it's like he just drags his big knife out of the room and you're sitting there shaking in your boots because it's had like the scare of your life. Mhm.
It sounds a lot more dynamic in terms of combat, and just the change between the environment sounds a lot more deliberately more cinematic. It sounds like they did a really great job with this remake.
And the puzzles are top tier puzzling. There's some really cool stuff that they took with the original puzzles and expanded upon them. There's
Okay.
a there's a puzzle where you gotta put in coins in a certain order, like, it tells you a story, and then you put the coins in the order of what the story says because there's, cameos on the coins, and then when you do that, it opens up, you grab a key, and you leave. In this version, you put it in the story, then the story changes and it expands. And then it says, okay, now this is happening. Put the coins in this order of what's happening here. Then when you figure that out, it changes again. There's another story, and the coins have two sides. So you can flip them that have different pictures on them and
Oh,
tell the
that's neat.
story with these coins. It's
That's neat. Yeah.
really, really intricate. And it's not like, okay, I'm tired of this damn puzzle. Like it's the perfect length, it's intriguing and interesting. The story gets better as you tell the story, and then at the very end, it says you take one of the coins of one of the people. It says who caused this whole story to happen. Like if this person didn't exist, essentially, whose fault is this that this happened? And then you put that coin in, and it unlocks the thing, and you get the key, and then you're like, you feel really proud of yourself because you're like, I solved that pretty quick with no help. That was a really cool one. And the game has a difficulty level and the riddles have a difficulty level. So
Okay.
if you're like Jake, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I know you like puzzles more than action. If you're like,
Yeah.
I just want to get through the story, but I want difficult puzzles, you could put the game on easy so you get, health and bullets and all kinds of shit, but I want a challenge in something, you can make the puzzles difficult, like the highest difficulty setting, and give yourself a challenge with just the puzzles instead of the combat in the game. I think
That's
that's a really cool
actually really
accessibility.
neat. And I was going to ask that
Yeah,
because
I didn't know that was a thing. I might have to start
I
over.
hate playing games these
Yeah.
days where if I get stumped on trying to find something, I'm missing something, and I have to spend an hour trying to find what I missed. I hate
Mhm.
that. I always like it better when the game, like, I like puzzles, don't get me wrong, but I don't like an obtuse puzzle. I have to go to game FAQs or look up IGN wiki for a guide. I hate that. So I like how there's a
Right.
difficulty level for difficulty for the puzzles. I've
Yeah.
never seen that before. That's actually really interesting sounding.
It's actually in the original too. In the
Was it
OG
really?
version of it, they have
Huh.
that selection that you can pick easy
Yeah.
gameplay, super hard puzzles, or super difficult gameplay, but super easy puzzles so that you do all the combat and the action if whatever you want. It's a
Yeah.
it's a really cool accessibility that they added there.
Like, outside of Elden
Yeah,
Ring,
that's
the
neat.
last few games I played through, I've just put on story difficulty because I'm just there for the
Mhm.
experience. I really don't want a game challenge these days. Elden Ring was enough this past year and Battletoads last year, so I'm there for
Yeah.
the ride. I don't necessarily want a difficult combat, but I
Mhm.
also just don't want to bang my head against the desk trying to do puzzles all night. So I might actually give this one a shot. Actually, it
You
sounds
should.
pretty good. Yeah,
This game again, I was concerned about the length of it with it being a fully priced game. It was $70 at launch. And I got
everything
the
is.
gifted one so I can play it 3 days in advance because I'm a masochist. So, $10 extra on that, but
Oh,
I am
don't encourage
getting
that bullshit. What are you doing?
not anymore.
Playing early.
I'm telling you right now that this is worth every fucking penny. Like, I was like, "It was this or Wukong," and you guys that know I've been talking about Wukong for weeks, blah, 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 and I was like, "I gotta get Silent Hill. I gotta get this game. It's spooky season. I wanna play it." It's one of my favorite all-time games that I even talked about it in a previous episode about what it did to me. And I'm like, Wukong, what? Woohoo? This is Silent Hill time. This is amazing. And
Yeah.
I absolutely adore this game. And I'm happy to be playing it for everybody and having them watch it because it is so good. And I keep saying it, it's like, I got my advanced GG. I got to sell that stuff, right? When I'm also trying to sell Silent Hill to everybody. I don't get anything for it, but I think everybody would enjoy it as much as I do, even if you've never played the original. I think this is still a great horror game on its own, and if you're
Yeah.
into that kind of shit, I would pick this game up. Absolutely.
I normally am not into horror games, but playing Alan Wake has kind of opened my eyes a little bit to it. Um, I'm still not a fan of jump scares, mind you, but if the story is great behind the jump scares, then I'm
Mhm.
kind of in. So I actually think I might check this one out. I'm really jazzed that, like you said, that it's an independent game. It's separate from 1 and 3. Because my concern with all these kind of games, when there's a 2 in it or a 3, I'm like, okay, I'm
Right.
gonna go back and play the original, and I really don't want to. I really don't want to
Right.
play a PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era game these days. I'd rather just dive into this if I can, and it sounds like I can. And I think if it's
Yep.
standalone enough, I might give this one a go.
It
Well, I
definitely
do
stands on its own.
believe
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure 1 and 3 are the only ones directly connected as proper sequels, otherwise the rest is anthological.
Yep.
How
Yep.
many are there in the franchise? 5?
Shit. There's 4,
5 or
and then
6?
there's
Is there really?
I think there's 7. I think there's 7 because there's stuff they released on mobile because Konami went to the mobile gaming market for a little while and just shit all over their IP. I
Yeah,
watched a whole thing on PT the other day, and it got me really angry at Konami and what they did to the franchise. But there's
all their
basically
franchises. It's all
yeah,
pachinko,
up to
man.
the
Like, do you have
I
to
think
play
is it
pachinko to
the
get the
room?
lore in this game? Like,
Yeah, you
Okay, so
kinda do.
there's 1, 2,
Most of
3, there's 4, which is The Room.
it. Mhm.
There's Silent Hill Origins, Silent Hill Homecoming, and Silent Hill Downpour. So that's 7 of them. And
wow.
then
Okay.
Silent Hill Shattered Memories was sort of a reimagining of the first game.
Right,
When was Shattered Memories? When did that come out?
2009.
right.
I think we
And by
talked about
this
that
time,
one.
everybody was so pissed at Konami for what they've done to that
Right.
IP because they just let it go. And what they did is they did what they did with Blooper, right? They were giving it to other studios to create their version of Silent Hill, but they were giving it to like
Right.
people that just could not make it happen.
I have a real
Yeah,
worry
I
about Metal Gear Solid as a franchise now that Kojima's left and is probably never going to go back to Konami, right, or partner with them.
No, oh no.
And I mean, Kojima is Metal Gear, right? I mean, that's his
Mhm.
baby. But I'm interested to see what another company could do with them, with the property. But I am kind of nervous with it. But it's great to see, like I said before, Bloober Team do this one and knock it out of the park. Sorry, Wolf. Go
I
ahead.
didn't know that Kojima was in on PT. Like I didn't realize that was
Yeah.
his first foyer into Silent Hill, which makes sense why it was so like good and sought after and
well, by the
normally rated so
time
stuff.
he was sort of ousted from the company, he had his hand in Castlevania, he had his hand in
Mhm.
Silent Hill, he was Metal Gear, so
Mhm.
like he
Yeah.
was kind of just becoming embedded in everything Konami had that was anything major.
Yep.
And then so they were like, "Get out of here!" And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
their
The
whole
mobile.
studio just came to a
Yep.
standstill.
Yeah.
Yep. They had the
And
mobile
now we
phone
have Death
guy
Stranding and
get promoted.
puppets.
Oh, it's
Like, you
terrible.
know?
Terrible. No, yeah, Konami really shot themselves in the foot with that. But I'm glad to see,
Yeah.
even though Konami can go fuck itself, I'm glad to see that they're reaching out to some talented studios like Blooper. And
Yeah.
they even said, I think, upon the release of Silent Hill 2, that there would be a long-standing relationship with Blooper in the future. So I'm hoping what this translates to is at least a remake of one, maybe and
Yeah,
then if 1
Yeah.
does well enough, then they could do 3, so they can tie the stories together and then do whatever the hell. If they just do those 3, maybe even The Room, I'd be a happy guy.
yeah, just 1 through 3, because I think 1 and 3 are the only ones that aren't available on modern platforms at this point.
Yep,
Um,
correct.
so yeah, 1 and 3, a proper remake that's actually released on everything instead of 2 platforms.
Right,
And then, then they can start extending the franchise and bring Silent Hill back to life. That would be really cool.
well,
Yeah,
we have
that's what I
Silent
wanna
Hill
see.
F. Silent Hill F is being announced, whatever the hell
The
that's
hell
gonna
is that?
be. I don't know, but it was announced as Silent Hill F, and then there's another Silent Hill with words after it that is also supposed to be 3 Silent Hills that include the remake, and then 2 others after this that are supposed to
Yeah.
be in the Silent Hill IP.
I so the trap that I see Capcom is kind of falling into is they keep remaking all the Resident Evils. And I mean, that's great and all. I heard the rumor that they may do a Code Veronica remake. Sure, I'm great, but then what? They can't
Right.
remake 5 and 6 and
Yeah, they
7.
can,
Those are too
and they
new.
will.
I want no, but
They'll
I
do
don't want
5.
them to. I want them to do something new now
No,
with
we're
Resident
getting
Evil.
a
And that's what I
remake we're getting a remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn, for Christ's sake. You
That's
kidding
yeah.
me? They'll definitely do a 5.
But it gets to the point where it's stupid, right? And that's where Capcom, like
Sure.
Sony, has gotten stupid with the Horizon remakes or remasters or remakes of a remaster, whatever the hell it is. It gets stupid to a point, right? And I'm worried that Capcom has now fallen into that stupid territory with what they're doing with the remakes. I like the early ones, but I want them to stop at least for 5 years and then go back and remake 5 and 6. But I want Konami and Silent Hill. I would love to see them do a brand new game, give it to Bloober. Let's see what they do, right? It's like with I can't remember the name of Greco. I think it is the guys who did Link's Awakening on the Switch. They did a remake on the Switch, and Nintendo trusts them enough to give them the reins to do their own game, Echoes of Wisdom. It sucks, but at least they got the opportunity to make it.
That
I
is
would
a
like to see
ringing
Bloober Team make
endorsement,
a
Jake.
unique Silent Hill game. Yeah,
I would like them to redo 1 and 2. If 1 and 3. If
1 and 3.
they
Yeah, that makes
they've
sense.
done so well with the source material of 2 that I feel like they could nail at least 1 and 3, and then you don't have to touch any of the old ones ever again. You don't. Because I love 3, but I can't play it now because I'm so engrossed with 2 and how
Right.
fresh it looks and how new it is and the new car smell and all that shit that comes with this goddamn game. I was like, I should play 3 again. And I fired it up and I was like, I hate tank controls. I can't deal with these tank controls. But now maybe there's accessibility on 3. If 2 had accessibility, then maybe 3 has that. I could turn that off.
How was
That would make that
3
a lot more
in the later ones in the franchise with the voice acting? Did it get better? Because 2, the original 2 had shitty voice acting. Did it get better in 3?
I I feel like they're on a similar vein. I think it's
Yeah,
better. I think it's better because it was later in years, but I wasn't riveted by anything anybody was saying. The Sean Bean
right.
look-alike in the game was not exactly it pulling my ear to fucking listen to what he had to say. I
Yeah.
still sped up through a lot of shit, but
Like voice
Yeah, it
acting these days
was.
in the modern era is a totally different beast than it was even 10 years ago. Like voice actors just crush the roles now. Like it's really,
oh, it's so
really
good.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
The story
acting
in
in
this is
Silent Hill
amazing.
3 was kind of like going from uh if Silent Hill 2 was the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, Silent Hill was the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series. Like
That's
it's
fair.
Okay.
better, but it's still
That's
not amazing.
that's a good analogy. That's a real good
I get it.
analogy.
Okay.
That's very good. So, yeah, that's
Okay.
Silent Hill 2 remake. Again, I'm being shown that remakes can do magical things and completely turn my attention away from anything new and still hit the source material the way it's supposed to and have me vote for it as game of the year. Because this has been lights out for me. I mean, Erdtree will be a huge place in my heart. It was such an amazing game, but there were things about Erdtree that irritated me to the point of like, this is a little much. Whilst Silent Hill is paying homage to one of my all-time horror genres, right, right where it needs to hit me, and I cannot wait to see what happens in
Guys, you
later on
heard
in
it
this game.
here just live now. Chard says Elden Ring sucks and it's not game of the
Wow,
year
I didn't say
material.
that.
You just said it
Did
from
not
his
say
own
that.
mouth.
Did
And
not
I didn't
say
think
that.
I'd see the day. After you get me to play the fucking thing, now you're trashing it. This is just typical
My
of this
God, I said it was
podcast.
hard for me,
Yeah,
and
I'll
you didn't
play
even
Silent
play
Hill
the
2
parts
and
that
you'll
I
be like,
told
"Oh,
you
it
to play.
sucks."
I will. I will. When Silent Hill 1 and 3 remake come out, then I'll just be like,
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2 just doesn't hold a candle to these two.
That's just hot garbage. You're not wrong. Like I'm glad you love it, and like I said, critics across the board love it. I think didn't you take this for the Fantasy Critic, or was that Sinistar? Who took
No,
this
I did.
one? Yeah, motherfucker, because this game did really good in reviews. I'm
Oh
getting
no, yeah, I
crushed
did.
on
Yeah, I
Fantasy
did. This
Critic.
was me. I picked
Yeah,
this one up and I picked up Erdtree, obviously, and I'm really hoping
yeah,
the Metal Gear Solid release this year. It's not going to be released this year, but I
yeah.
really hope
I
that
hope so because
Erdtree
I
Shadow
do like
dropped that
Metal Gear a
shit
lot, and that would be one I want to go and play. But yeah, I think
because
I
I
might
feel
check
like
out Silent Hill.
I'm up against Dragon's Age Vanguard now versus
Veilguard,
Metal
yeah.
Gear Solid Delta, and I'm really hoping that it drops because that thing's going to kick the shit out of Dragon Age Vanguard. I
Yeah,
guarantee it.
I'm gonna guess
All the
now that
Metal
I
Gear
think Veilguard
homeboys
is
are going to
probably gonna
be
be
up.
85 plus on Open Critic. I think it's the hype is cautiously optimistic, and I think everybody is kind of poised for
Everyone's
that to
got to
be
be
like
up.
a really good game.
I saw
So I
your
don't know.
bid, sneaky bastard. Got a
Well, I
bid.
didn't get it. Sinistar got it for like $2 or something. He outbid me on it or something. So
$2.
I can't remember what I got. I think I took Mario and Luigi
Oh
Brothership
man.
because I don't know what else to take. And like Silk Song is fucking never getting released. Like I think we're getting
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 6 before Silk Song comes out. So I'm gonna be screwed
So
there.
6 years.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I don't know.
We should do an
Anyway.
episode about our picks. Okay, that'd be
How
great.
Jake just had this great idea to do Fantasy Critic and he's gonna be in last place when it's all said and done.
Getting beat up by
I don't
Dragon Ball
know.
Z sparkling.
Well,
Get out of here.
it's
Just
as of right now, I'm in fourth,
Are
but
you?
yeah, I am. But I'm still waiting on Stalker 2
yeah.
and Microsoft Flight Simulator.
That's gonna kill.
Can't
Like Flight
it's gonna kill.
Simulator is gonna
Yeah.
kill. Like it's
That's
gonna be a
that's in the
good
bag.
game.
Like I
Yeah,
was
like
really let down by Visions of Mana and Zenless Zone Zero. I thought those were gonna do better than they did.
yeah. Like Sparkling Zero, I thought was gonna be shitty because like that style of game usually doesn't do
No,
well. And like I thought
no.
for Dragon Ball games, like Fighter Z that came out a couple years ago by Arc was like the pinnacle of that fighting game for those characters. But I
Okay.
guess people have nostalgia for Dragon Ball Z, I guess, and the 150 characters in that fucking thing, and
I know
it
my
did really well
Dragon
in the
Ball
reviews.
people. They never let me
Yeah,
down.
it's crazy. So you good pick there. I got Mina
Well,
the
my
Hollower,
brother
which I
used to
hope
be
is
one of
good, but
those.
I don't know.
Yeah, so did I.
My brother was one of those guys who would buy the new Dragon Ball Z game every year.
Yep. So did
Really?
I.
He bought Budokai, he bought
Yep.
Budokai 2, he got Budokai 3, whatever the next one was. I think he got that one.
Yep.
But then he sort of fell off because it was a yearly thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I
It's
think
like
he tried
buying
to get into
Madden.
Kakarot, but it was just too big.
I have Kakarot, and I haven't finished that one yet. But anyways, Silent Hill 2 being the
Yeah.
game on topic there.
Sounds like a
Take
We'll do a
thumbs
that,
up for
whole.
AI.
Chard. Yeah.
This was two thumbs up and two toes up. This couldn't. I can't wait to play this tonight because when we're done with the podcast, I'm gonna go freshen up the water and get the green screen up, and we're gonna jump back into Silent Hill because it is fucking amazing. So, would recommend from your horror enthusiast of the Press B to Cancel team. Would highly recommend picking this up. Absolutely.
Awesome.
All righty. Well, this has been another episode of Press B to Cancel. Thank you guys for listening. You can find us at pressbtocancel.com or pressb.org. You can find our socials on there. You can find the link to our Discord on there and come have a chat with us and everybody else. Tell us what you thought of the game and share ideas that you might have for things we should talk about in the future. Chard, what do you got going on after Silent Hill 2? Any ideas?
I wanted to play Dead Space remake again, but I'm running out of October. So I didn't realize that I didn't realize Silent Hill was going to be as long as it's becoming, which is fine. Totally fine with that. I had this whole goddamn thing set up, but I think after that we might head back to the RCU and start playing some Quantum Break if I don't
Please
have any.
play Alan Wake 2, you asshole.
I only want to play Alan
Because we
Wake
got
2,
to
but I
talk
got
about
other
Alan Wake
games in
2.
there. All right, maybe I'll
Gosh.
just play. You know what?
It's
Fuck the
even
RC. I'll
scary.
just play Alan Wake 2. I'll just play Alan Wake
Yeah.
2 after that, and then we'll head over to Control and everything when I'm done with that. Because the Lake House has been leaked that it's possibly coming out October 22nd or 25th, which is next week, which is the last DLC for Alan Wake. So probably going to play Alan Wake 2 when I'm done with Silent Hill 2. There's a lot of twos. It's the year of twos, and we're not talking about the bathroom.
All right, Jake, what have you been up to?
Way too much Diablo 4. I think I was talking to you guys offline. We're probably going to do an episode about Diablo as a franchise maybe in the next month or so. And because I got to talk about Diablo 4, I have thoughts. It's a much better game than it was at launch. People should play it. Besides that, I've been playing a hell of a lot of UFO 50. UFO 50, I think, might be a game of the year pick for me. I got to see. But I wasn't expecting that one. I kind of wish I took that one on Fantasy Critic.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
I'm mostly playing games. I have a couple ideas about what I'm trying to do, ways to get my ass into doing more content creation, whether for Press B or for my personal channel. So I have a couple ideas. I'm going to try something next week. When I do, I'll post on Discord about it. But I do have something coming up. But mostly just playing Diablo 4.
And I've been playing a little bit of Thank Goodness You're Here, which
Yeah.
is a very bizarre little British game that's like it's only like 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours, but it's very much like playing a cartoon. a somewhat raunchy cartoon.
Fantastic.
What's the voice actor? Is it Matt Berry? Is that his name?
Matt
He's the guy
Berry, yes.
IT
Yeah,
Crowd,
yeah,
right?
Matt
Or the
Berry. I love Matt
later
Berry.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
IT
fucking funny.
Crowd, What We Do in Shadows,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was the voice of the butler robots in
yeah.
Fallout, the TV
You're
show.
the meanest man in New York City.
He's awesome. Yeah.
Matt Berry's dope.
So
Alright.
yeah, that's definitely been an interesting game so far. We got to finish that one up.
All right.
All right. So everybody, thank you for listening once again. Please like and or subscribe. We appreciate it. It helps. And we will catch you next week.
We'll be waiting for you in our special place.